driver interviews, pit action, industry news. We're bringing you everything that fuels the adrenaline-pumping world of dirt track racing. Buckle up now. You're sitting with the Slimy Bastards. Take it away, Jason.
Welcome to the Slimy Bastard Podcast Show. I'm in Britt tonight for the final night of the season. We just wrapped up the season here tonight, and I want to first give a shout out to Trent, the guy who runs the track here. He's done a lot for me over the this year and helping me just getting this up and going and letting me come in with pit passes and everything. And so shout out to him. Great facility, some great racing over this past summer. And with that in mind, I want to give out a shout out to my sponsors and helping me out with some stuff and Slade Pit with Pit Stop Motorsports out in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and then Lake Mills Motorsports. And so with that, the guy who I have on my podcast tonight, I thought I was going to have better odds of getting Hunter Biden in here for a drug intervention.
We're off to a good start.
Getting Jeremy Mills in here. I've been after you all fucking season of getting you in on my podcast, and then I got Gary, co-owner of your car, with you in here, and honestly, man, I'm glad to have you in here. I've followed you for quite some time, and I know you and I have talked a lot. Just over the season, but even before the season when Jaegers were out here, and I always thought pretty highly of you, and enjoyed our conversations with you and that. And so with that, welcome to the show, man.
It's good to be here finally. We had some miscommunication, I think, at the beginning of the year. I have this deal about doing things like this before the races, so it always was after, and then moon gets rained out during the races, and so
guys,
finally happy to be here.
Yeah, well, guys get in here and they're like, this is totally different than what I'm expecting, and it's pretty laid back, and like your wife just said, it's pretty cool in here.
It is cool in here.
Yeah,
really cool in here.
Like guys have said, you're just missing the stripper pole. So
and a stripper.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gary, where's that at?
I couldn't tell you. You'd have to ask somebody else on the circuit.
So Jeremy, track champion here in Britt, track champion in Algona last night. Congratulations on those. Came in second and up in Britt. In Boone last week. But first off, I mean, with that in mind, you ran 3 consecutive tracks every week to do this. Is it pretty overwhelming at times?
Very overwhelming at times. I miss out a lot of things with the family. I don't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
And so I can't get that way. I mean, we just had a pretty good start to the year, and we thought we'd just see where that take us. And we were up there national points, regional points for a while. So, at that point we were committed, and
sure.
And so it just it felt good because we were finally running good everywhere we went. I mean, we had all the stuff we needed last year, all the equipment. Gary's made sure that we got everything we need, and just sometimes last year we just weren't putting it all together. Right. And we this year we did some different things and got the cars going good, the GRT cars, and then we got this new car from Jordan Grabowski, and it is really good.
Yeah.
I'm like tonight in that second feature, I'm figuring out that I probably don't have to tighten it up as much as I used to, like with my GRTs, because it's just got a lot more everything than the GRT had. But
is this your first year in that chassis?
Yeah, so we just got it. This is probably like our 7th or 8th, 9th on it, I think. So
it was actually delivered to us at this track.
Algona.
Oh, well, yeah.
It was delivered to us at Algona in I don't know, a week before Salute to Veterans, I guess.
Yeah, because you have that new wrap on it.
Yeah.
And so I want to say to you, and I can't thank you enough, because I actually reached out to you when my dad passed away. We wanted to do a memorial race in his name, and the money that we raised from that went to that Salute to Veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And but before we reached, we wanted to find out some of the details of the Salute to Veterans, my brother and sister and I, because we didn't want to donate a bunch of money to something that was like 60% going to the foundation, 40% going to administration fees and all that. But and I can't thank you enough for you guys helping me out with that, because you guys actually put me in touch with them guys.
Yeah, Jason and those guys they are amazing what they do, and about as straight shooters as you can get.
Right. And how many years have you been doing that now?
This year was our second year, and it's just an honor to do it and to meet the soldiers and it's
a long week for you though too. I mean, you
It's
got
a
to
lot.
be pretty. Yeah, you do. All them drivers and that do a lot. And,
Right. But what we do
it's
is
nothing.
very little. Any time I can get a chance to do anything to help, I'm going to be willing, because that's why we get to do this stuff.
Right. And I guess till I seen that in person, it was pretty mind blowing. When we were there in Spencer, it was hotter than hell that day. And I'll never forget, I took some of my dad's T-shirts up there that I had some left over from Rock Springs and to donate that they threw out. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, I'll give you a ride back to the pits," because you know how long of a walk that was of walking around, and this is hotter than hell. And I got into the side-by-side with one of the guys, and here he is missing both his legs and an arm. And I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean? You don't put that connection until you see it and you hear the stories and you hear everything that's involved with it. So with that whole organization, I can't talk. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, they do a lot.
They do. It's amazing what they do.
Right. And it speaks volumes to what that series has done over the last, how many years have they been running that now?
Probably 5 or 6, I would guess.
I mean, this is probably one of their biggest years, right? As far as like drivers and showing up and all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it just keeps getting bigger, and I think it will continue to get bigger.
Right. And I wanted to stay and have a couple beers with you guys after in Boone, because that's what we sponsored as, with my dad's memorial. It was like, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning?
It was late. We went to bed at like 5:15 or
so.
something.
That doesn't surprise me. You guys are probably up till 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
It was late.
I don't know what time I decided to just bug out, because I had to drive back to Nebraska, and it's like I still had a 4.5 hour drive yet.
Yeah.
So how'd you two meet?
It's kind of a strange thing.
Very strange.
Tyler Evers, which is on the pit crew that's known Jeremy for years, me and Tyler fished together all the time.
Uh-huh.
And it was generally ice fishing. And so Tyler says, well, hey, there's this guy I know that he races modifieds, and, you might sponsor him for anything. I says, well, sure. So I wrote him a check for $3,000 and gave it to him. And next year, gave him another $3,000. Next year, gave him another $3,000. Never went and watched him race.
Never even knew him.
You never met him?
Even met him.
Did you guys like call each other or anything?
No.
Or?
Nope.
No,
It was all strictly through Tyler for a while.
Jesus. So
Yeah.
you had no idea where the money's coming from, or you could have known.
And then I was out at the farm one time, and Tyler's like, hey, Gary's in town. He wants to stop by and meet you. It's probably, January, I suppose?
Yeah.
Not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
You know.
What were you expecting?
Well, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't really know, but I wasn't expecting the long hair.
Yeah.
The whiskers.
Yeah.
So, the first time I met you, Gary, is actually Braxton Yeager was out here racing. It was actually Night of 1,000 Stars. And I've known Justin and all them just through Dad and that for years. And anyway, I just moved back to Iowa, and you guys were pitted next to each other. I think you were still racing that Rage chassis that you bought from Justin.
Yep.
And anyway, I came out. You were standing next to his car, and I came up to start talking with you, and kind of got to know you that way. And then when I went back up into the trailer, my dad was sitting in there, and he goes, "Who's that guy that's always walking around smoking the cigarettes?" And I said, "That's one of Jeremy Mills's sponsors. I guess he owned a bunch of cold storages around the country and that. And his grandpa and your dad owned a bunch of cold storages around the country." And he goes, "No shit. Well, I probably hauled into some," because he drove for Ennis Truck Line down in Clarion. And so he came out and talked to you. And God, you guys talked, I bet you, for damn near an hour and a half, 2 hours. And he came back up into the trailer, and he goes to Braxton. He goes, "You see that guy right there? That's who you want to go fishing with."
Yeah, well, that's like I said, when me and him, I was donating money, for the race team, and that is like, basically, that was, okay, whatever. I was fishing.
Yeah.
And it's finally like, well, it gets hot in summer. You only fish so much. When it gets hot, I don't care if I fish or not. So let's find something else to do. So this is where I end up.
Did you ever follow racing then? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Out in Nebraska there? Or
Yeah.
was it I-80 Speedway, or where'd you go?
Yeah, I-80. Actually, I used to have 2 limited late model cars.
Oh, really?
And had a guy driving them.
Uh-huh.
And we moved up to late model, and that didn't last very long. And the guy just kind of blew me off. And then I just kind of stepped out of it until this deal with Jeremy.
Yeah. Jeremy, how long you been racing?
Since 1996, so a long time.
Where'd you grow up at?
Marathon, Iowa.
Where's that at?
So it's about 20 miles southeast of Spencer.
Oh, okay. So kind of around this area, then, all that. And so did you start out in where did you start out? What class and all that?
I started out in hobby stock. So my brother, in '93, he bought a bomber. We bought a bomber, and he was racing it. And then in '94, '95, he won national points in the hobby stock. And then I started racing in '96, and then was the rookie of the year. And then in '98, I won national points in hobby stock. And then I just decided, I needed to move up.
Sure.
But I wanted to go here because Denny Hovigay kept a car at my mom and dad's when he worked there, and it was a modified. So that's where I wanted to go. So it didn't make sense to me, like, why go to the stock car and then same tires,
right?
And basically same cost.
So you just moved right up.
Yeah, because it's like, if that's where I want to go,
Right.
just well go.
So since then you've been running an A-mod and all that, but you've gotten all over the place. Like you go to Arizona and all over. Have you been to? Have you ever done the duel in the desert and all that?
Yeah, we used to do that quite a bit. I can't remember when the first year we went out, but we went out there probably 3 or 4 years. My brother and I both, and then the track just got so terrible there for a while, and we just decided we can't do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys that tore up a bunch of shit. And,
when the holes are big enough to like pull a freaking rim off your car, it's time to stop going.
So, but like you won 2 track championships this year and everything. So out of everything that you've done and what you've accomplished and everything, what's probably one of the things that you can hang your hat on and say, you know what, I've done this?
Well, probably, I always go back to my rookie year in the modified. Probably the coolest thing I did, or I feel like I've done, is I ran second in Super Nationals that year as a rookie. And Super National starts on Wednesday, and Tuesday night I'm sitting in my mom and dad's shop, and I'm like, somebody said, you should go to Super National. Nah. About 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, maybe I should go.
Yeah.
So we loaded up and headed down there. Never been there. Didn't know what to expect. I think I was just so naive of the whole thing. I was parked out in the back 40, so I never got in the...
What year was that?
That would have been in 99.
So is it as big as what it is now?
Well, there was 400 and some modifieds there that year.
So, yeah. Probably.
So it was... In the modified car count, it was probably a little bit bigger. But
sure.
But I just, just went and raced. Like, I didn't... We were parked out in the field, when we got there, and I just went down there with one other guy, and never ran worse than second in any race I was in all week. But I just think I was so naive. I didn't know enough to know that, like, this is a big deal.
Right.
And then after I got second on Saturday night, and I'd actually passed for the lead, and the caution came out, and John Lowe, who's wanted a lot, he was leading at the time, and he's smart, so he saw what I did, and then I just run second.
Yeah.
And but after we're sitting there pulling the motor, looking around, it's like, this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Like, it finally started to sink in a little bit, and it's like, yeah. So, and then I think, that's the good part about Boone, and the bad part about Boone is it ropes you in and give you a taste of the good. So now you've been trying all these years to get back there.
Yeah.
And
it's the luck of the draw, basically.
It's a lot of everything. A lot of luck, a lot of, yeah.
So speaking of John Logan, that you drove some of his stock cars, you're doing that tomorrow night down in Boone, and that is that something you guys have talked about, of like expanding into a stock car, or you just sticking?
Not
with
really.
No.
I mean,
that hasn't been a thought at all.
No.
This is a pretty full-time
Todd
job.
Van Eaton has been very good to us as far as letting us get in there and whatever, and I'm so appreciative of everything they do for us. And it kind of scratches that itch, I guess, a little bit, and hopefully we can do a good job for him, in the next it's Super Nationals.
I had a joke with his boy earlier tonight, and I'm like, because him and his boy were supposed to come on and do a podcast with me in Algona, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And he packed her up and left. And so I joked with them tonight. I said, I got to come over and say hi to you now before you pack your shit up and go home, before I can't get over here and say hi.
Yeah.
But they're a good bunch of guys. I've always enjoyed my conversation with them, and fun to joke around with. And I could only imagine what it's like to have some beers with them and hang out with them guys. That's why I was actually looking forward to doing that in Boone, but not at 3:00 in the morning.
Right.
So yeah.
No, it's good, and they give us good equipment, good car.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And but we're just we're focused on what we need to do in the modified, and that takes a little pressure off of Boone, I think, for me.
Right.
Like, I'm not expected to do much in the stock car, I guess, so that's fun. And then it takes my, I don't know,
kind of clear your head.
Maybe nervousness of the modified, or pressure that I put on myself in the modified. It kind of takes that off a little bit, But
so now that the season's winding down and everything, what do you do in the winter? Because you used to farm and that, right? And now you're just racing full time.
Racing, and then I work for Lake Towing, so we'll get busy. We're busy all the time, but we'll get busy in the winter and we'll do that, and we'll work on stuff and head to Arizona.
Yeah, because you run that Winter Nationals and that down there.
That's like,
it's a vacation.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most fun things we do all year.
You know, I'm gonna try to go down there this year for that.
Yeah.
I've been told by a bunch of guys I should go down there and do some of this with it.
Yep.
Down there and that, and so I'm gonna try to do it this year.
Yeah, you got to get Brad on there. I'll get you hooked up there.
Yeah.
You go talk to Kenny Wallace too. He's always a character.
You know, speaking of Kenny Wallace, I reached out to Pappy the other day. You know, he was in a bad wreck last weekend. Where he at his home track there in Arkansas. He flipped her, I think, 2 or 3 times and landed up in a bunch of trees upside down and shit. And broke, I think, his 2 or 3 ribs and his tailbone and a bunch of shit. And I guess when I was talking to him, he goes, I told them guys that were getting me out of the trees next, I still in my car. He goes, just give me a shot of whiskey. I want to get back out there and race. But, you know, Kenny Wallace drove his car a couple of weeks ago and actually won the race in his car. And my dad was a huge Rusty Wallace fan.
So was I.
And where Kenny Wallace signed his name, he signed a great big quote to Pappy and that. And where he signed that was actually next to the memorial sticker that Pappy put on his car of my dad. And I thought that was, you know, the coincidence of that is pretty cool. So when I talked to him, I brought that up to him and I said, you know, I'd like to have him on, you know, just you know, what's the odds of getting Kenny Wallace on my podcast?
Right.
Is slim to none, but
you might be surprised.
well, that's what he said, and so that'd be kind of cool. But I'd love to go down to Arizona and do that, just because first and foremost, I love listening, especially in the dead of winter when it's cold and just miserable up here in Iowa. And you see everything green and that down there in Arizona because all the fields are growing and everything. And then you got Jerry Van Sickle. You know, you think you're in Marshalltown, but I love listening to them and everything. But yeah, it'd be cool to go down and check all that out.
Yeah, it's good racing. The facility is awesome, and
everybody can't say nothing bad about that. So that's pretty cool. And how long you been going down there?
So what we used to do when we went to Vegas, we'd go to Phoenix. My mom and dad have a place out there.
Uh-huh.
We'd put everything in a storage unit, like in a outside storage, and then we'd go back and we'd race Yuma and Canyon or whatever, and then
through the winter.
Just not like it wasn't like it was now. It was like a weekend, you know.
Yeah. Because I think one of them tracks ain't there anymore, is it?
Canyon isn't, no. And so then we quit going there, and it's like I told Katie, I'm like, I want to go back to Arizona because it's a good time. So, this will be our third.
What's that?
My wife definitely enjoys it.
Yeah, this will be our 3rd year there. So, our 3rd year in a row back, and it's awesome.
So, Gary, you go down there then and spend that time down there for 2 weeks?
Me and my wife drive down instead of flying. We stop in Sedona, Arizona at a condominium that we got there and spend 4 or 5 days. And then when we come back, we spend 2-3 more days before we get back up to Nebraska.
Does Katie and the family come out with you?
Yeah, Katie goes with us all the time. And
you need
Mom and Dad are out there. And then our crew guys, we alternate a few crew guys between the weeks because you know it's 2 weeks long, so everybody can't get it off. But we get a little Verbo down there, and it's the most amazing house that I've ever seen.
Pool.
So it's
45-degree nights, and nice heated pool, cocktails.
Oh, really?
And it's like 3 miles from the racetrack.
How do I get in on this program? You know, speaking of your crew guys, how many crew guys you got? Because every time I see you, like you roll into Boo, you got different guys. You roll into Britt, you got different guys. You roll into Algor.
It just depends on the night. Because, I mean, sometimes we don't have hardly anybody. We got Katie and myself and maybe one other person. And then, like tonight, we had like 6 or 8. So it's, if we can get a balance with everybody and try to figure it out. But I need, everybody's got jobs and whatever, so we're always like, I'm trying to get the car to the racetrack, and then we have help once we get there, but we got to try to figure out how to get everybody to the shop once in a while.
So do you set up like a pre-season schedule of like, this is what we're doing, this is the guys who we have on board?
Yeah, not really. I mean, we should. We got to do some things different.
Speaking of your races and that, but what of all the races you ran and where you've been and everything, what's one that just stands out that you're glad that you won and that you're proud of winning and that you will remember?
Probably, there's a few of them. Like my daughter's memorial races, them were pretty big for me.
Yeah.
Probably the only times that I ever got emotional in the car. There's a good friend of ours. It was one of my biggest fans, Jess Weishauer. She got killed in a bank robbery in Laverne.
That was just a couple of years ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then their family has had a memorial race in Algona, and we've won it the last 2 years. So that one was pretty big. It's those memorial races really get you. Yeah.
And I could speak to this, and I'm not a driver or anything like that, but when we did my dad's memorial race out in Rock Springs, you can see, my dad and Tanner Black were really tight, and Tanner considered him like a grandpa, and that first night of the 2 nights, Tanner won it. And that was pretty emotional for us as a family and all that. So I could understand that of where you're coming from, as that feeling of everything, and you can't really put it into words,
right? If
that makes sense.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Gary, you're a big fisherman. Where are you fishing at these days? Where are you catching fish?
I haven't fished in a month and a half.
Well, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Well, let's see. Traded my boat in, bought another one. I decided it was time to spend some time with the race team. So,
do you fish with him, Jeremy?
He hasn't even been in the boat.
I haven't. No.
Do you fish at all?
I haven't for a long time.
Yeah. So here's your first problem.
He's more of a cruise person.
I like fishing when I can throw it out and they bite pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then you can pull back in.
You seem like the guy that doesn't have the patience for it.
Right. So if they're biting, I'm in. If they're not biting,
you're more of the get on the tube and let's float you around the lake. And
see,
she's turned me on to that a lot, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
I'm more of the style of you just pull the crankbaits. That way you have a cocktail in hand. If they don't bite, well, we can cop a buzz.
Yeah. You're having fun both ways.
Yeah. One way or the other.
So, what do you do when you're not racing that, Jeremy? What are you up to?
Getting ready to race.
So every guy I've had on this,
flag football games, basketball. We are extremely busy.
Yeah, sometimes that's with your kids and all that. And how many kids you got?
5.
Jeez, so you're busy like I am.
We're busy.
Well, Katie is.
Yeah.
Yes. Katie's more busy than I am.
Where do your kids go to? Where you guys? Because you guys are in Clear Lake, right?
Yeah. So we're a blended family. So we have 3 kids. Well, 2 now that go to Garner and 2 that go to Clear Lake,
okay.
And then our oldest Dalton is going to Iowa State.
Okay.
So so we're busy.
Yeah. And it's probably fun though at the same time.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, all the kids are very good at their respective sports. And,
sure.
Very stressful.
Yes, very stressful. We got a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And and both of our kids are a couple of them are really close in age. So then, like, we got to divide and conquer sometimes because we got a game here and a game there.
Yeah.
We can't be everywhere.
See, everything was actually pretty good till I really stepped into the picture. Then I just threw a big monkey wrench in everything for them.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, let's see. We got 3 cars now. We're trying to sell some, so created more racing, a little more animosity between husband and wife.
Well, but look, you could hang your hat at the end of the day. You got 2 track championships, right?
Yeah.
But what's next season looking like?
Just fun. I think we need to just not concentrate so much on weekly stuff.
Yeah.
Reassess.
I mean, do some weekly stuff because you got to have that to kind of have your baseline,
Right.
and then go to some tracks we haven't been to. Do some specials that I've never been on the North Dakota tour.
Yeah.
I'd love to go sometime.
Sure.
I don't know that that's next year, but
If it works out, it works out.
there's like I hear about Davenport and some of these other tracks that are, some tracks in Nebraska. Like I just want to pick a weekend and just go somewhere we've never been.
Talking to a bunch of guys that doing what I do and everything, it's pretty interesting because guys go all over, right? You take Ricky Alvarado, Tanner Black, even Braxton Yeager and all them, and I think guys are enjoying that more so than worrying about weekly points,
Right.
And so I could see where you're coming from on that, and I've had even some tracks reach out to me, like Independence and Davenport and all them that have wanted me to come down there and podcast and, highlight some of their drivers and that. And but it makes it hard too because you're trying to showcase some of the guys in your area and that guys want to listen to, and that you being one of them. And so I can relate with you on that. It's pretty interesting of just hearing your take on that.
I just think it's, we get so stressed out about we got to be there, we got to do that, and it's like if we need to take a weekend off to regroup or something.
Well, just trying to get, not just 1 car, but 2 cars prepped.
Yeah.
Because, before we run the GRTs and we had both those, and it's like, yes, there's a little difference between each car. And, trying to get tires done, get all the work done on the vehicles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I could understand that.
Yeah.
So what's one race that you want to race that you haven't? That you said the North Dakota Tour.
The North Dakota Tour. I feel like that's a good one. There's, I can't remember, they call it the Stampede or something. There's one in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Kind of in the spring that would be a good one, I think.
Have you run that Batesville down there?
No, I went to Batesville a long time ago. More so when I didn't know much. And that's a different track to get a hold of.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'd like to go back there.
Yeah.
So, just things like that. And, I don't know. We experienced Abilene, Texas.
That'll never happen.
We got that checked off. We don't need to go there again. Nothing bad about the track. It just, we did it. So we don't.
Did you make a lot of friends? Like up in Iowa Speed Week?
We did make some friends. They're really good people.
No, I don't
there.
mean that
Just
a bad way.
the racing is kind of like.
I've never seen a track where you have a yellow-green.
Yeah, you got to race back to the caution.
Really?
Yeah. So that's interesting.
I've never heard of such a thing.
We didn't either.
We didn't. Yeah, it's.
So basically the yellow came out and you slowed up.
But
then
you got to go all the way back to the flag stand.
But I could see this. So you probably got past.
No, I don't think I did, but it just like it rubbered up and double file restarts and generally here like you lose a spot or gain a spot and everybody gets back in line. It was we're gonna run over you and we're gonna get in line. So it was very interesting.
Have you thought about doing that race down Florida? What is that?
We would. It's a I think it's a good race, but
It's a toe.
At this point,
it's
I'm not will. I feel like I'd have to do Florida or Cocopah, the Winter Nationals, and
it's
I don't
one or
think
the other.
anybody's willing to give up Arizona. So,
No.
so we'll be happy just staying in Arizona.
Sure. So you said you worked for Lake Mill or Lake Towing.
Yep.
And Haley Hansen.
Yep. Todd's daughter. Yep.
Yeah, owns that.
Yep.
And I actually worked for Alex and Mike
Yep.
for a couple of years
Yep.
in the fall and that. And that now I can't talk nothing bad about them two guys. I had a ball doing that. And
They're good. They're
And,
very good people.
I'll never forget my first night of running the tractor. I was running their grain cart. And anyway, towards the end of the night, Mike came up in the truck and handed me a Coors Light. And he goes, figure you probably could use this right now. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I didn't realize I'm going to be driving a grain cart and having a beer at the same time, but I'm not going to turn it down, And them guys were cool as hell. I love, and I didn't realize at the time, it's kind of a funny story. My brother lived up in Kensett where they live. And I was still out in Idaho, and my dad lived across the street from us in Idaho. And Ryan came out when my stepmother passed away, and he brought us out some koozies of Alex Hansen. And I had no idea who it was. Dad didn't know who it was. But we kept them, and all that. And then lo and behold, here I am working for him. And it's kind of a cool little backstory of that. But the funny thing about that is Alex brought that up I brought your name up to him when I was working for him because you had Justin Yeager's old Rage car. And he's like, Mike brought it up of like, yeah, Jeremy's a cool guy. He did a cancer foundation deal for, I believe it was your sister, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a cool story of how small this world is of racing and the community of that. And when Dad said that, he goes, you need to follow him when you get out there. And I always did. I always listened to my dad and all that. And because him and I followed the sport so close, but it's kind of a cool
Yeah, so back then I was running a BMS car, and I had gotten JJ Wise and Alex switched over. And we went to Boone to the Super Nationals, and I wanted to do like a rap for my sister, like breast cancer awareness and whatever. So we get there, and Brandon Blocklinger, who ran BMS, Alex, and JJ Wise, they all had tribute bodies on for breast cancer for my sister.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it was really awesome.
Yeah.
All good people.
Yeah. And I had a ball working for them guys and had some pretty good laughs. And you know Mike pretty well then, right?
Yep.
And Mike took over the combine one time for Alex so he could go out and strip till. And I was used to the speeds of what Alex was running in the combine. Well, Mike ran a little bit slower, and I was trying to, keep up with Mike, and Mike kept on radioing over, you need to slow down, da-da-da. And finally I got to the point, I was like, well, Jesus Christ, I radio over him. I said, Jesus Christ, Mike, I want to get home in time for the Jeffersons. And you could see him in the lights of the combine and the tractors and that, because this was at night.
Yeah.
And you could see him looking over at me, with the radio in his hand, and he was like, the Jeffersons. He couldn't believe I knew the Jeffersons, But yeah, a good bunch of guys and all that. And so with that, I appreciate you coming on. Congratulations over the last this season with the 2 track champions and that. And you're running Boone then for the Nationals, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And anything besides the Winter Nationals, what else you got going on for the rest of the season?
I don't know. I guess we'll kind of look at some fall specials and see if it works for us. And it's been a long year.
Yeah.
So
take a little break and
maybe regroup, start getting ready for Winter Nationals early. And
So with that in mind, is there anyone, who do you want to thank and what?
Well, I mean, we got
season?
to thank Gary. Obviously, he's really made this all possible for us. And I got a lot of good sponsors. I mean, my mom, my dad, Mills Farm Repair, Scent Seed Service, been with us forever. Cortiva, North Iowa Mechanical, Stay Mill Enterprises, my brother, and
McNeese.
Yeah, McNeese Tire, the sports page. I mean, I've got a lot of good, loyal sponsors to help us.
Sure.
And there's a ton I'm going to miss. I mean, Jordan Grabowski,
Smoke and Whip.
Smoke and Whips Barbecue. We're just servicemen of the Heartland, salute to veterans, or Hunting with Heroes. We're very fortunate to have the people we have.
I wanted to bring this up too. Your wrap on your car this year, it's by far, I think, is one of my favorites. Next to
it was pretty good. Last year we had a really nice looking one, and we thought, how are they going to top that? And then they sent us a design of that, and we're like, okay. So they just raised the bar again.
But that chrome and this way it dances in the sunlight and everything, it was pretty incredible. Cool. And you won some awards with that too.
Yeah, we got the best appearing car for the modifieds for the week or whatever. And so it's good. But what it represents and the the battle of Iwo Jima on there and stuff, it's that's overwhelming too, because it's
you ran the wrap up for them last year, right?
Yep.
Do you keep any? I mean, have you kept any of that just for yourself, just as a memento?
No, I mean they auction it off, and then we've sold some, to try to raise money and whatever.
Right.
So, and I think we maybe kept a couple panels off of last year's car, but
yeah.
Probably do the same.
I mean, the T-shirt desigins too. I mean, those are cool. The Salute to Veterans T-shirt that they did this year is pretty badass.
Yep, they're
in all three classes.
Yep.
Because I got one in all three classes. I just thought they were pretty cool the way they did those.
Yep. They're really cool.
Yeah.
They do a really good job.
And it really highlights every car. That's what I liked about it.
Right. Yep.
And so this wasn't one particular car. It was all three cars of all three classes.
And then we'll run the same wrap down in Yuma too.
What's that?
We'll run the same wrap that they have down in Yuma. And we actually have two cars wrapped that way.
Okay.
So.
That same wrap that you have this year?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So with that, I mean, you don't have to run that in Yuma. You just have to run it in the Boone Nationals, right?
Yep. Yeah, but, I think...
out of respect.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm getting to. You're doing that as a respect type deal of
as long as they'll let me do it, I'll keep doing it.
Because I know there's guys that will even run it even next year. And
I think there's some guys that have already took it off.
Yeah. I got mixed reviews on that. And I'll leave that too. But
I'll leave that alone.
I think if they're doing that, you should run it the rest of the.
Well, it's kind of part of the deal when you sign up. There's certain things that they would like for you to do. They don't make you do it, but
right.
But I feel like once you're there and you talk to those wounded vets and stuff like that, like if you don't want to run it the rest of the year,
right,
there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That's
let somebody else run it.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Somebody else.
You shouldn't have probably done it in the first place.
Right. And how many races do they require you to run that? Is it just that tour and then Boone?
No, when we talk, it's always we're going to run it that tour and then through the rest of the through Boone.
Right. Is that what they require, or is that what they?
They don't really require. I mean, they're not going to say you have to do this.
Right.
They just say we would expect you to run it through
do it. Right.
And that's good enough for me. That's what I'm going to do.
Good enough for me too.
Right. I brought this up to Alec Fett the other on my podcast with them guys a couple weeks ago. What I find is pretty overwhelming to listen to the stories especially with his car because of the story, the backstory to it. And if you didn't tear up or get emotional over that, something's fucking wrong with you.
Sure.
Because it was pretty, they did, like you said, I can't talk good enough about that organization and what they do for the sport and what they do for the veterans and that. So, I agree with you guys on that. So with that in mind, I'll wrap this up and appreciate you guys coming on, and check us out on TikTok, all your social media pages. And until next time, toodaloo, buckaroo.
Pit Stop Motorsports, Dirt Tracks Racing, largest inventory trackside parts service. We keep racers on the track, located in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and coming to a track near you. Check us out on Facebook at Pit Stop Motorsports. And tell Slade Pitt the slimy bastards sent you.
Driver interviews, pit action, industry news. We're bringing you everything that fuels the adrenaline-pumping world of dirt track racing. Buckle up now. You're sitting with the slimy bastard.